Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the She Thinks Big podcast. How are you? Where are you listening from? On a walk, in the kitchen, driving around? I'm serious about this. I want to take a little survey and find out where people are listening from. So message me. Okay. Today, here's what I want to talk about. There's this belief that floats around in the entrepreneurial world, especially I think the entrepreneurial world for women, that once you've been in business for, let's say, 5 or more years, you should have it all figured out. You've survived the startup phase, you've made money, you've probably got a bit of a team going on, you've probably had a few, I can't believe I'm doing this moments along the way. And you're like, I should be able to figure this out. But here is the truth. Even when the outside looks successful, the inside can feel, messy. The inside can feel uninspiring. It can feel exhausting, especially when you're still the one holding all the decisions and carrying the weight of what you've built. And I know a lot of times we feel like that. If you're a mom, you feel like you're holding all the pieces together in your family. And maybe you really are. But you also might be feeling this way in your business, and you're carrying that mental load. And that is where today's guest found herself. So I am joined today by Andrea Liddane. Yes, another Andrea. We're not the same person, though you would be amazed by how many email threads and calendar invites and voice messages might say otherwise. Let's just say it's a good thing we don't both work with the same clients, or there'd really be an identity crisis happening. That Andrea Liddane is the founder and CEO of Liddane Tutoring and Learning Services. She's got a business that she's built for over 2 decades. So that's like 4 times 5 years. She's served hundreds of students, probably even thousands, and she's got a team of 30 plus tutors and staff. And after all that time and success, she realized something. She was tired. She realized she was tired, not just physically, but emotionally. And her passion to help students had turned into pressure. She couldn't really see that next step forward. So she did something bold. She stopped trying to figure it out alone and decided to trust someone else to help guide her through this forest, and we do talk about forests in this episode, of decisions. Someone who wouldn't just kind of hand her the map, but actually walk along the trail with her. So in this conversation, Andrea is going to share what it really looks like to be an experienced business owner who still needs support, and why getting coaching later in the game is sometimes, I would say, the most strategic move of all. So if you've ever thought, I've been doing this long enough, I should know what I'm doing by now, I want you to hear this episode, because knowing what you're doing doesn't mean you should have to do it alone. All right, sit down, buckle up, and let's get into it. Share with me a bit about Liddane Tutoring and who you serve and how the business has evolved since 2001. That is a long, long time ago. Tell me.
Yes, and I was a teacher before that. So, I mean, it depends on where you want to put the start button. So I'm Andrea Liddane, and I'm the founder and CEO of Liddane Tutoring and Learning Services. We are based in Seattle, Washington. I began this journey a long time ago when I was raising my own children. I stepped away from teaching to be home more with my kids and started tutoring on the side. And then a friend of mine had said, why don't you try tutoring? Because I had missed teaching. And then I hired people because my students needed more than just me. So then in 2014, I opened my first office, and now we have 2 locations in Seattle, and we work online as well. And I have a staff of around 30 plus people at any given time. Currently, we're serving about 200 students plus, and that's always rotating. So we're doing a lot. For me, the business started where so I'm going to reference camping and hiking a lot because I love to camp.
Love
and
that.
hike.
Love that.
I think you gave me that analogy at one point, or somebody did, about, so, we're standing in front of this forest of life, right? And there are so many different paths. There's an endless number of paths to get through the forest. And I think one of the things that I've recognized, especially because I'm no spring chicken, is that we now, and maybe especially as women, but we have this notion that we can do everything and we can figure out the best path forward if we just look or try harder. And so I was one of those. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I created this business with no formal business background. And
like most business owners, actually, right, to be honest. Yes.
Yeah, I'll bet that's true, right?
Yep.
And also carried the notion, a podcast wasn't a word before I started this business. Like, what? And jumped on that bandwagon. If I read, I've listened to so many podcasts. I've listened to so many books on business. I've learned, so many things in that route. And I thought about, should I go back to school to study business? Like, my business now, before I started working with you, Andrea, I had been doing this for, a long time.
Yeah.
And, we survived the pandemic. We did the thing, like all of these things. But the problem when you get to a certain point, if you don't have the knowledge or experience, whom are you going to ask? My friends and family don't know what to,
your friends and family. Well, your friends are your friends, and we want to keep them your friends, right? They don't want to hear you, like, they don't want to hear the ins and outs. And your family's your family, and you can't really talk about it with the people in your organization, or only to a point, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the story is, I'm in the forest. I'm deep in, and there are so many forks in the road, and there are so many squirrels, because I always think about dogs and how they just get really distracted by squirrels. And that's how I have felt for my whole career. And I've looked to all these different ways, and I have made so many great decisions. I can be proud of what I've created, but when I finally took the leap to hire you, I felt like I was standing there at a fork in this trail that I was going through, and there were, so many different options and squirrels everywhere. And I don't, there may be 100 other ways to get through the forest, and maybe some of them would be better, but I decided to take the leap to trust you. And it's been the best decision. I cannot speak more highly of it.
So now I get to go down a trail with you, right? And help you also, we together choose what our next, we going left or we going right? Yep. We get make that kind of thing. But I love the forest analogy, because if you think about it, the trees were growing, like nothing, the business is alive, right? You have clients. You've got a staff of 30 people. So, Andrea Liddane, so this is also, side note, this is a problem, everybody who's listening, that our names are so similar, but oh well, it's a good problem to have. There's nothing like sort of going wrong. There's growth, but your business wasn't growing at the rate you wanted it to grow. And you kind of felt like you were stuck in the mud a little too, right? Is that fair? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, and one of the things that, there's always this, I'm going to just speak to money too, because
speak to money.
I think it's really important. And I've referenced, the pandemic was hard for us as a business, and we came through it. And so it's not like, I'm so flush, I can just I'll just hire a coach. But what I realize now is there's this whole thing about decision making that you talk about. I have realized in the time that I've worked with you that I have wasted so much time standing in the mud at the fork in this like
Yeah.
multi-pronged road going, what do I do? And by the way, using that analogy, let's imagine, if you've ever traveled overseas and you've like gone to a museum or something like that, and there's a bunch of people standing outside and they want to be your guide, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
all
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
sell it to you.
yes,
They're like,
yes.
I'm the best one. I do this. I do, there's also that. I get emails every day for people wanting to show me this and that. And how do I know how to decide? Back to the name thing, I honestly felt like the reason, like the universe was yelling at me. You need to know this person. You cannot stop looking at this person's name. So just as an aside, because there was a whole fiasco with emails and things at the beginning of this relationship.
But we figured it
yeah,
out.
we
Yes.
figured it out. And to just have somebody there whom I've decided I'm going to trust and that I can turn to and ask questions and contemplate things. And what Andrea does is she asks questions back that help me make the decisions more quickly. So I'm not standing in that mud for so long.
Right.
That I've chosen a route and we've chosen it together, and I know she's there with me and she's going to call me out. If I start going down some other route, she's going to not call me out. I don't mean that in a negative way. You're going to ask me questions like about this decision, like why are you making that? What's in it for you, or that kind of thing.
So, okay. So why, and you just said something and now I lost my train of thought. I was going to point out, why do you think, or what books, podcasts, I mean, you're also a lifelong learner, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good thing to point out here is we can listen to all the books and the podcasts and really talk to all the people, but those things aren't necessarily helping you make decisions faster.
Right.
Is that, you think I'm right there? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I literally had the thought, because I always joke, the only formal business class I ever took was typing in high school. And that was a long time ago. And thank goodness, right? Because it's really come in handy. But
yes.
And I've worked for small businesses, so, and I credit them with teaching me a lot. But, and every industry is different, right? I'm not doing what the people who have a staging business are doing. But the thing that is so amazing to me is that it feels really lonely at a certain point. It feels like, I've gone down the path that employees pointed me toward, right? And it wasn't the right decision for the business. And you have a voice for the business, and that has been amazing for me.
So let's dig into that a little bit. So I think what you're kind of referring to is some of your employees have said, hey, Andrea, I think we should change our pricing or invest in this software or offer different tutoring hours, like whatever it might be, right? So those employees have come to you with suggestions. Yep. And then you have thought, maybe they have a point. Maybe I should do that. And probably over the last 24 years, you've done some of those things. Some of them have worked out. Some of them haven't. But probably what you're recognizing now is that in that decision-making process, you weren't always considering what was best for the business. You kind of were going off of what? What do you think you were going off of? Like, why were
I was going off of trust, and maybe, I was naive. So again, back to the money, like I have wasted so much money doing things that and it's all about making mistakes. I mean, I own a tutoring business. We talk about making mistakes all the time, right? Like, and that's just part of life. And I can have regrets about some of those things, but I try not to, because that's just where I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Just where you were.
But now if I can have another person who really doesn't have any, you don't have anything to win in this game.
Your wins are my wins, right? That's if you feel like you're winning, or if you are winning, then I'm winning. That's it. I have no vested interest, right? It's not like I own stock in Liddane Tutoring. No, I do not. Maybe I should, but I don't.
Would you figure out that piece for me, please?
All right, next. That'll be our next thing. So, all right, so let's squirrels. What do you think the squirrel, like, let's talk about the squirrels. Can you give an example of a squirrel that maybe? Something that's
Oh,
been distracting you or was distracting you.
oh, yeah. Well, again, I'm in an industry where I've had a lot of feedback. I've had some amazing employees who were so vested in the business and have given such great, valuable information and have helped me to see and have strengthened my belief in this dream. Like I have had this dream for, I'm quite fortunate because I've had this dream for a really long time. I mean,
Yeah.
since I can remember. And so I've turned to different people and a lot of people have supported me, but the problem is that most of them don't have business backgrounds either.
Mm-hmm.
they've never
Mm-hmm.
they've never guided a business through some of the turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
And now being with you and being able to ask those questions, but also to be able to be part of the group. The group is a piece that we're not speaking to. And Andrea convinced me to do the full Runway to Freedom. Again, one of the best decisions. I can't wait to be with these people again. I can't wait to but I also have them to watch. And it's a lot. It's funny when you're doing coaching on one of our calls with one of the other people in the group, I learn so much because it's a lot easier to
It
be
is.
super critical of somebody else. Like, well, of course you're going to do that. Like, and then
Yeah.
you go, oh yeah, look at that. So
I'm doing the same thing, or that
yeah,
what they're receiving coaching on relates to me in this way, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's super powerful.
yeah.
Okay, so lots of squirrels that you learned through, we'll call it. You always learn mistakes or whatever, but
And that includes clients, that includes
yeah,
employees, it includes people who just find my name and send me something in my inbox, right? Like it
yeah,
can be at so many different levels, so
yeah.
many different levels.
But I think what's interesting here when you say that, it's like you never have had really a filter to put things through,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
except your own, like rolling around in your own head. I think now you're approaching things in a much more, just from my observation and working with you, in a much more kind of systematic way, or what's important now, right now. Like that is
Mm-hmm,
important, but we're going to put it on the shelf for now because we're focusing on this.
mm-hmm.
So then
Yeah,
it kind of puts the squirrels to the side.
yeah.
Yeah.
I recently had to make a big decision, and I was much, much more intentional about how that decision played out and what the steps were. So I wasn't
Okay.
trying to do it all at one time. And I think having you there where I was like, again, using this analogy, so Andrea's standing there in the fray of all of these squirrels and all of these different options of ways to go, saying, follow me. I will help you, or let's go through this together. And I just want to say that finding that person, it's really a gift, but it's also one of those things that I think about in my own business that we really try hard to pair a student with someone who can guide them on their journey through the forest. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just for a few steps, maybe they just need to pass their calculus exam so that they can get a decent grade in it, or something like that. But the squirrels are out there for them too. Parents, the most common conversation or question or statement that I get from parents, and I've done thousands of intake calls in my life. That's part of what we do. In that time, I've heard every parent almost say to me, I could help my kid. I know how to get through the forest. I did it. I've had my own journey and I can look up things, and there's every different podcast and everybody, but what we offer and what you're offering is like, here is a way through this forest, and I'll be with you and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. And I have experience. I've been through the forest
Yeah.
many, 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 many times. And
Yeah.
I've
So
got the background.
that's a good analogy also for the listeners who are a lot of my listeners are parents. It's like you could figure stuff out for your kid. You could also, if we're talking about tutoring, like we could go on YouTube and watch Khan Academy videos, right?
for,
And they
for days.
for days. Okay. But that's not the same as having a live or virtual, but a human tutor,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not the same. And I think that's also, as business owners, we can watch a million videos and listen
Yeah.
to YouTube, podcasts, books, everything, but it's not the same to kind of almost have someone in your court, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
And
again, all the people who are sitting at whatever top of little entity, right? It could be three
yeah,
people, whatever, one person. You're sitting there trying to make the decisions, which way to go. And again, like as a tutor, might I not know the latest, greatest thing, or might I, but I'm going to get to know the student and I'm going to add my experience and my background. I mean, you have this background and you've seen all of these people go through business and you've learned
yeah,
so many things in your life. So I'm going to trust that because otherwise I'm just dinking around over here,
right,
like
right.
standing in the mud.
So I think, you mentioned before we started recording, like jumping over a stream, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's like being able to jump over the stream. And I think recently, Andrea Liddane made a big decision in her business. And I think you knew when we were approaching that in the end, something had to change and be different, right? But to figure out how to make that happen in a way that felt actually authentic to you, that felt
Mm-hmm.
good,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
felt was the right thing to do for the business. If the business had a vote, which we say, right? If the business had a vote, felt the right way, right for the business, but also allowed you to kind of explore options along the way, like get a
Mm-hmm.
taste. Does this feel, if we go this way, is it going to feel okay?
Yeah.
I think either you probably never would have made that decision or jumped over the stream. Okay. You never, like, if we hadn't
Mm-hmm.
kind of worked through that together, that never would have happened. Or you just would have made that decision. I don't want to say too fast, but not as carefully orchestrated, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As you did.
Yeah.
So that's almost like we took out the map, we contemplated the ways we could go. We chose like almost like one route, not knowing which halfway through which fork we would take, but we're going to go in this direction. And then we can make that next decision when we get there. Right.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I think it's worked out. So I think I find business owners either want to kind of like rip off the Band-Aid way too fast,
Mm-hmm.
or they never rip off the Band-Aid at all. And then the Band-Aid becomes part of their skin. And then they just go back to like, well, this is just the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think businesses that have been in existence for a long time, that's even more true.
Yeah.
Even more true.
There's so
Yeah.
many things. I mean, and I make jokes like it wasn't that long ago that I was, taking client notes by hand, basically like on a napkin in the back of my minivan. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really how I started,
Yeah.
and, and there's certain parts of the business that aren't that far from that. But, how do I know? Because everything can always be improved and everything, but how do I know what are the most important parts? And again, which trail, thinking about the stream, I want to go back to that. I
Yeah.
hope this doesn't get too corny with this
Yeah.
whole thing that we're using here.
It's
But
good. Analogies are good. I love them.
yeah, yeah. So again, we're on this trail. There are like 100 different ways to go. There, squirrels at every place, people at every place offering to guide. And I think that what it felt like when I called you the first time, and that was a hard moment in my
Mm-hmm.
life, was like, please just get me across the stream, and then I'm going to trust you. And there was such a sense of relief with that, and almost like, you're crossing the stream, you don't know if you've never done it before, is this rock going to like give out and you're going to end up in water up to your waist? Like, how do you get across? And Andrea's standing on the other side. Step on that rock. Have you considered this? And then now that we're here on the other side, I feel like going along on the journey, I just have somebody who's learning about my business, who's understanding some of the sticking points, but also so can make those decisions in the best interest of me as a human. And, again, I've worked so hard, as so many people have, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not quite there, it's like, okay, well, what should I do?
Right. So how do you think you make decisions differently now? Or what do you think?
Ooh, such a good question. Because I think this is probably the biggest. And I was just giving feedback to a shared person of ours this
Okay.
morning about like not getting stuck in the decision making of whom to talk to,
Oh,
right?
okay. I think I might know who that is. Okay.
Yeah, I think you do too. So I think in the past, I have felt that in order to be a good business person, I have to research. I'm a learner, right? I have to
Yeah.
research every step of the way. Like, should I do it this way? Should I do it that way? Almost like looking at, a Google map and like going way up. Well, I want to get to there, and again, let me see all the options.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just not that important.
Yes. It's just not that important, right?
And if somebody else can go, hey, this is the way I think you should go. These are the reasons why, and their sound make the decision and move on, because otherwise you're just stuck there. And that's
Right.
what you're spending all your time doing.
Yes, being stuck there. So, I mean, you have in the past few months, you've hired a virtual assistant, you've brought on a new marketing agency. What do you think would have kept you stuck in indecision before? Why didn't those things occur before? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I've never done this before.
Yeah. Okay.
So what do I know?
What do you know? So this is
Yeah.
interesting. Like you've never, even though we've been around for 24 years, like never done it before, right?
Nope.
Nope.
And as a human being, I've never
Yeah,
done a lot of these things, right? Like, I
right.
don't know, the world has really changed,
Yeah.
right?
But
The
you've
world
hired
continues to
tons of
change.
people. You have to, your business can't
Yeah.
run without other tutors. So you've hired tutors. That doesn't stress you out at all. That's
Right.
not like a big, but hiring a different type of person or someone to fill a different role or
Yeah.
capacity, right?
Right.
Never done it before. So I think
Right.
that's what keeps people stuck. Like, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. They overanalyze, kind of like what we were
Yep.
talking, the person we are talking about this morning who is overanalyzing how to approach something,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then you just kind of like, well, maybe I'll get to it next week. Or I'm going to wait till we're recording this right before July 4th. I'm going to wait till after July 4th. It's not a good
Yeah.
time now. So
Yeah.
versus just like, let's just try it on. Let's see what happens. What do we get to lose?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And knowing when to do that, right?
Right.
Because there's certain things that are just easier to, I mean, I've started this in my business, there's a lot of different kinds of customers. There's a lot of different, like, it's a flow, right?
Yep.
We have people who've stuck with us for many, many, many years, but there's people coming in and coming out, and that's how we work it. But I think also part of this is, I don't know how I learned this through you, but I know I did, is having avatars for certain people and
Yeah.
situations so that you're not reinventing this wheel every single time. So even when an employee behaves a certain way or there's something going on, or even if they're an amazing person, like, how are we going to treat that person? What is the real estate that it's going to take up in my brain or customer, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a certain kind of customer that I've seen 100 million times in this business, and you can't always tell at when they first walk in the door. But so how are we going to deal with that and not sit there and ruminate
And
and
take up
talk?
real estate in your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
Andrea was here when she was here for our last retreat. While you were here, you had a client, a parent, kind of reach out with a problem / taking up real estate in your brain, right? Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? How am I going to
Yeah.
answer? I remember you saying, like, can I just ask one question? I don't even know what we were talking about, but I just have to get this. I got to solve this problem right now because it's taking up too much space.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that becomes different when you have a strategic thought partner, when you have a sounding board, when you start to create momentum and you
Yeah.
just make decisions quicker, right?
Yeah, but knowing that you and everyone else at the retreat were on my side, like,
Yeah.
that was a crazy experience to have, like everyone was so interested too. Like,
Yeah.
I can just, if I would have been at home, I might have mentioned this to my husband or maybe, my friend or whatever, but it's not the same as somebody else who's like, Yeah, that's hard when you have to deal with that kind of person or that sort of situation. So that
Yes.
again, and I don't have other people in my life who run businesses the size of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And where you also always talk, I have so many Andrea-isms. If you know Andrea's content, you'll understand all the things I'm referencing here. But one of the things is resources, right?
Yeah.
Talk about, I'm going to let you put it in your
All right.
words.
So I say we have our four most valuable resources are time, money, people, and then we could say energy or brain power, kind of like what comes from within. And may have you may think that time is your most valuable resource. Okay, you can make an argument for that. You could say money is your most valuable resource. We can make an argument for that. Or the people you have. Okay, but really, your most valuable resource is your own brain power and your own energy, and figuring out what to do with that in order to create more time, money, and better relationships. I mean, that's what we should be focusing on. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's what you're getting at. Is that what you're getting
Yeah,
at? Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And, if I'm brewing over a certain kind of customer or a certain kind of employee or, some decision that other people have made, again, standing at that fork in the road, but I have Andrea with me, like we're holding hands, we're going down this path. It feels it's far more powerful to make those decisions. And what I've realized too is that the revenue that I'm managing, and
Yeah.
revenue is different from profit, right? But
Yeah.
like I don't have any background in understanding how to do this well, and so where do I, even just that piece, should I spend money on this? Should I hire a virtual assistant? I can do all the things that she's doing. I know how. I'm telling her how, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time.
It does. It does. So is that a cost? Is that an investment? Right. So that's another thing that
Right.
you've kind of figured
Right.
out. And mulling that over in your own head, you can convince yourself either way.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But I think having this this strategic partner, this forum, this community to help weigh those things makes things smoother. It doesn't create business lag either. So I think it's fair to
Yeah.
say you were experiencing a little bit of business lag. Like you didn't have the momentum you wanted, right?
Right.
It was kind of hanging out. It was fine, but it was just there.
Yep.
And I think that you've seen huge momentum in the last handful of months, right?
Thank you.
Fair? Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen
I
it for
mean,
you. I've seen it for you. I don't know, but I've
okay.
seen it. And sometimes you're in your own peanut butter jar, so you can't see it. But I've seen it. I've
That's
seen it.
another Andreaism. I
That's
love
right.
the peanut butter jar. Yes. Swirling
So
around.
swirling around. So what do you think? Like a lot of women might assume that coaching is just for startups, or
Mm.
that at this point, in your career, I mean, you should have been able to figure this out. But what would you say to someone who thinks that by year 5 or 15 or 25 that they already should have had this figured out?
Again, and here's my story just quickly is that I decided consciously to scale my business in 2018 and then got, stuck in the peanut butter jar of the pandemic. So coming out of that, and looking around, I mean, again, had I had this resource early on, it would have saved me so much money. It
Yeah.
would have saved me so much
So what
and
would
so
you
much
say?
time.
Like, what do you wish you would have said to your 2001 self? Or maybe your 2000 and, well, when did you sort of 2014? You kind of,
Well, say
the earlier self,
2010,
the younger
something
self,
long
the
time
younger
ago.
self.
Yeah.
Yeah. If she could sit on one of our coaching calls, what do you think she'd say? Or how would you have even told her to get on a coaching call?
I would tell her to get on a coaching call for sure. And it may not be obvious at first. That's the other thing.
Okay.
And you know what? Again, this is just like I'm going to run the parallel here. It's like hiring a tutor.
Yeah.
You can lead your child through their calculus course because you have a degree in blah blah blah, right?
Yep.
But the cost is that the laundry might not get done, or you might be arguing with that person, and maybe the person I'm arguing with is myself, or
Mm-hmm.
it can be people from the outside. So, like right now, I have a great opportunity coming to me from one of my tutors, but having somebody standing there with all the resources in front of them alongside me saying, is this the right thing? I think finding a coach as early as possible, if you're serious about this whole thing you're about to do or doing,
Yeah.
is invaluable. But for me, it's not too late. In fact, it's right on time,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah, it's
Because
never too late.
it's never too late. And in fact, it's right on time because I've now built this thing with so many different hands and beautiful minds of people who have helped me to create it. And some people who have helped, wanted to destroy it, and I protected it. Now it's time for me to get it to the point that it's capable of getting, but I need guidance because, well, look at me. I don't want to spend the next 20 years trying to, figure out what the next step should and making all the mistakes. So now I want to get to the other side of this forest, and I want to do it with integrity, and I want to have a good life, and I want to reap the rewards.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to do that because there's so many things I've never done before, and I've learned them along the way, but it's not very efficient. It's really inefficient to do it without a coach
Okay.
sometimes.
Yeah, I would say it creates efficiency
It
100%.
does,
How did
100%.
how have you also, because I've heard you talk about this, how has this kind of help you reclaim inspiration for your work?
Yeah.
Because I know you are very passionate about what you're doing, but sometimes it's hard to
Yeah.
keep that at the forefront.
It's getting more and more rekindled, and I see a way. And I'll be honest with you, I am tired. I'm running
Yeah,
all the operations of my business right now, right? Like I'm doing all
not
these
for
things,
long.
but
Not
not
for
for
long.
long, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty exhausted by that. And it's the same thing for parents, right? I'd say to clients all the time, you have to help, your kid make sure they bathe and that they have clean clothes and they have what they need to go to school. Is this something that is like you should be doing this? Is the net result something that I should be making all these decisions by myself and handling all of these things and experimenting? And I feel like I don't want to do that anymore. I want to take, last week we were talking about bold leaps
Yeah.
rather than next steps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to do. I hope I answered
Awesome.
that
Yeah,
question.
you did. You did. Taking bold leaps rather than next steps. I love it. So, all right, two last questions while we wrap up. Um, you've said to me like this is the best investment that I have made. So, if someone said to you, "Well, what do you think the return on your investment has been thus far, emotionally or
Mhm.
strategically or financially?" How would you answer that?
Well, again, you can juggle all the balls, you can sit tight, but it's a lot of energy going
Okay.
out. And my balance of my energy it's not where I'm enjoying my work anymore all the time, right? Like I have
Yeah.
these moments that are amazing. And I really want to love this because I am super passionate for it. I know that I understand things in a different way, than some people. And I want to share that and give some guidance in my own work. But I also need the time and the permission to do that. So I think what I've learned from the coaching is that the rest and the like carving out time for my brain to really dream and wrap itself around what I want to create is extremely critical. So chasing the squirrels or making a decision to go in a certain path, I couldn't do all the paths, but then I'm
Yeah.
just running around, right? Like I'm
Right.
not really doing what is in my best self.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think by seeing that you can make decisions faster and clearer with more clarity, you've
Hmm.
been able to reclaim some of your own time. I mean, I know you said to me once,
Yeah.
I haven't been in my house by myself for more than 48 hours ever, and you had kind of a whole week, right? And
Yeah.
you just took it
Yeah.
off and you took it off for time for yourself, or you've been doing tons of camping And you've been kind of working while you're camping, but you've definitely been okay with having that space. And I think that's a huge return on investment.
Yeah.
That
And
I see.
I can't wait to get to the next step
Yeah.
with your guidance, right? So that I can hire a director of operations, because I know that my brain, worrying about accounts receivable, let's say, right? Like somebody needs to do that, but does it need to be me every single week? Probably not, because I want it. And what I should be doing or can be doing for my business, even just trying to like make that decision, right? Like what is worth my time? It's hard to see that in yourself, because I can do these. I know my business inside and out. I can do it all the pieces pretty much. I mean, other than the bookkeeping and all of that.
You're capable.
I'm capable.
Do you have the capacity, or do you want to use the capacity you have for it?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the thing.
That's not the dream. The dream isn't for me to be stuck in all of that. Yeah.
So, all right. So last question, how would you describe how you feel about the future of your business now?
I'm so excited. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited because I feel so much more confident now in the decisions I'm making. And again, just having another person come in who's watching, who's tracking, who's listening. Andrea listens to those of us who are in Runway to Freedom. You know, I leave her messages about the most random ideas I have. And sometimes she gloms onto them and says, hey, that's really great. And other times I can tell, you know, like she'll ask me questions that will guide me to a different direction. And that, you know, that it's not with the coaching and even with the support from the other women in this program, it's not that any of us feels like we have the answer, but just that reflection time and giving space. I can't wait for our next retreat, because giving myself the space to really work and think, even if it's not quote unquote productive time in terms of we did blah, 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 that how critical that is. And I'm now giving myself that permission, and I can't wait for more.
I can't wait either.
Yeah.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to see where you go next and how this all shakes out. And I'm excited for our next retreat. So if you're listening and you want to be there, come message me, tell me, and we will get you going on that. We'll talk about what that looks like and what that means and what it involves. And you should come be with the 2 Andreas and all of the other people. Maybe there'll be 3 Andreas. If there's some other Andrea listening, come on over.
Whose last name is L.I.
Yes. Come on over. Well, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing and for being so honest and open with everybody. You do tutoring all over the country. They don't have to live in Seattle, do they?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
How are they going to find you best? What do you think?
Great online tutors, great people working for me. Our website is www.liddanetutoring.com, and my last name is spelled Liddane. And there are so many tutors in the world, but you know, if you're looking for somebody who, again, to be that guide for your student, because I can tell you how that's a whole different piece, right? We can't control our children. And so giving them someone that we say, okay, let this person help you through this moment, is really powerful. So.
Love it. All right. We'll have all the links to Andrea's business will be in show notes. So go capture those. Okay, my friends. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Andrea. We all love you so much. That's great. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
I appreciate you being here. So friends, I hope you loved listening to Andrea as much as I did. And I always say 2 Andreas are better than 1. Even if it does confuse our inboxes and links and probably our VA from time to time. But what Andrea shared is so important. Just because you can do it alone doesn't mean you should. Just because you've built a business and had it for many years doesn't mean that you need to continue building it alone. You've done it with heart and grit and pure tenacity, but transformation doesn't necessarily always happen until you get yourself the right kind of support. And that is what working with me and working with a coach is really all about. So, sneak peek, I'm tweaking the names of some of my coaching programs, and that mastermind, that Runway to Freedom mastermind, is soon going to be called the Ascension Collective. And that really is, that's what Andrea Liddane is in, as part of. It's my high touch, kind of multi-point coaching experience for female entrepreneurs who aren't just building anymore. They're optimizing, they're evaluating, they're leading. And it's for that woman who knows that she could keep doing all the things, but is really ready to finally stop being the bottleneck and start being the CEO. Kind of what Andrea described. So if this conversation that I just had with Andrea Liddane stirred something up in you, come find me on Instagram at Andrea Liebross Coaching, or click the link in the show notes and learn more about what I am doing with my clients like Andrea. And I hope this episode has created awareness, but now take action. It's time to make your business feel the way you imagined it could feel, and it could be when you started. You built the business, but let's build the feeling. Reach out. I'm here to help. Until next time, remember, she thinks big, and so do you. Talk to you soon. See you next week.